It's week 9 of the NFL, and we've got fantasy questions, such as aging superstars and too many sequels. Am I talking about The Expendables or another round of Manning versus Brady?
Is this the week RG3 returns to action, or does Howdy Doody get another start for Washington?
Will DeMarco Murray's 100-yard rushing streak finally come to an end against the Cardinals?
And is Ben Roethlisberger good for another 522-6 against the arch-rival Ravens?
All these questions and more answered on this week's Fantasy War Room live to tape.
Fire bad!
You got a Halloween costume?
I do not have one yet, and I've been thinking for weeks. Can't come up with one. Does that mean it's time for me to stop dressing up because I can't come up with a good idea anymore?
Well, you've got a child now, so it's all about dressing the child up. What's your son going as?
A pumpkin.
That's lame.
I know it is. Do you know last year? Last year he ended up going as a puppy, so he only can go as things that start with the letter P. But I tried for an hour to get him to go as Baby Heisenberg.
Oh, that would have been good.
So got a flannel shirt, made a little cardboard pork pie hat.
Shaved his head.
Sunglasses, shaved his head.
Yeah.
Took one of his mother's makeup pencils, drew in a goatee, khakis, and best of all, I took 5 Halls, put them in a Ziploc bag, and crushed them up so it looked like his blue meth. It was fantastic. And then he took off the sunglasses and he ripped up the hat in like 3 seconds later. I got a picture of it. Then he went into the puppy, so now it's a pumpkin.
Yeah. Halloween.
Yeah. I miss dressing up on Halloween.
Me too.
Living here in New York City, and I don't know about how it goes in the rest of the country, but in New York City, it is not about the kids at all. It is all about the grown-ups.
Yeah.
Putting on the funny costumes.
That's because Manhattan especially has a way of giving people like this endless youth. There are 35-year-old men who act essentially like 22-year-olds.
I was going to say perpetual youth. I call it arrested development, whatever.
Yes.
You know, permanent man-child syndrome, whatever you want to say.
And I say this as a former overgrown man-child myself.
Sure. Oh, wait. Did you cross the threshold when you became a da?
I think it was more about like age 30. Even before I was married, even before I had met the woman who became my wife, I was already kind of like over it all.
Yeah. You seem like you're a very serious man.
Yeah. I'm just too pissed off at everything. I don't have patience for the rigors of dating anyway, so it's best that I'm married.
Yeah, exactly. When you get dressed up, it's more about just like, who cares? What am I going to do? Impress my wife? Oh, we're stuck with each other the rest of our lives.
I don't need
it used to be more fun.
I don't need to put on a costume to get drunk, Nick.
No, I do.
I don't need any kind of reason.
Oh, dude, you don't? Man, you getting drunk must be so much easier. I need a closet, a costume. I need all. So complicated.
You got to get into character.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, what do you say we both dress up as two people who know what we're talking about when it comes to fantasy football?
What do you say we actually talk about fantasy football?
All right, War Room Week 9.
All right, let's get into it. We should note that 6 teams on bye this week. One of the super buys, as we've been calling them. Falcons, Bills, Bears, Lions, Packers, and Titans. That is brutal, depending on who your wide receivers are. Falcons obviously have 2 guys you're starting. Bears, 2 guys you're starting. Lions. Calvin Johnson finally will get another week of rest, and he'll be back in Week 10.
He says he's going to return to full Megatron in Week 10. Also, a lot of people hurting because one of the fantasy feeders, the fantasy factories, if you will, Green Bay.
Yeah.
So no Rodgers, top 5 quarterback. No Eddie Lacy, finally rounding into form. Had another great game last week.
Talk about 8 catches on 9 targets for 123 yards. That's more than he's even run for in a game.
I know, and that's usually James Stark territory. And then we're talking about James Starks, not James Stark, or Tony Stark.
Tony Stark, yeah.
Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson. Some people snagged a little if they're in a 14-team league with 3 receivers, maybe some Devonta Freeman. That's
Devontae Adams.
See,
Devonta Freeman also on bye with the Falcons.
Not on anyone's fantasy team, although he scored last week.
He did. Good for him.
Yeah, whatever. Last mention, he'll get on the show this year.
Yeah. Let's get into things with our quarterback rankings. Number 1 with the bullet is Andrew Luck. 6 consecutive weeks with 300-plus yard passing games. Also set the bar last week with the butt safety. That's
the makers of Butt Fumble.
Yeah, I approve. And then we've got Peyton Manning, of course, and Tom Brady. The biggest game of the week, of course, Manning, Brady, 73.
Have heard nothing about it.
Yeah, no, it's
this right here. See this? that's news to me face.
You didn't even realize it was coming up on the schedule.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. New England hosts Denver in a late afternoon game on Sunday.
Wish someone had
Not
told
even
me.
in prime time. You know that CBS must have fought like hell for that game.
I think what happens is they're given a certain amount of games
That
they
cannot
can just
be
be like,
flexed. No,
no,
you're not.
No,
No, you don't, NBC.
You ever watch those cooking shows whenever like they're allowed to all run and grab the ingredients they want to start with, and there's shoving, and they're basically like the scrum in football when there's a fumble, and you hear about just like knuckles in noses and elbows and eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. CBS looked at that when they're just like, no.
Don't go there.
Huge, massive game. And I'll tell you what, they owe us one after the absolute, pet euthanizing that was watching Brady Manning on my 40th birthday, no less.
Oh, last year, the Thursday night game when, it was some primetime game where it went into overtime and then a muffed punt?
Yeah.
I seem to
No,
recall
I'm
that.
surprised you remember that one.
We watched that together.
We did some work that night.
Yes.
We did some work that night. No, the AFC Championship was the one
yes.
where Manning was like 32 for 43, 400 yards, never hurried, never touched, never nothing. Just a free and clear Omaha all day.
Look at it this way. It saved the Patriots from a humiliating Super Bowl loss. You're welcome, sir. Let's move on. Number 4 is Colin Kaepernick. Our SB Nation stat bot clearly has a San Francisco bias. St. Louis, not very good against the pass, but I don't know about Colin Kaepernick being 4th. Sure, why not?
Yeah. I mean, okay. You know what it is? It's the fact that Stevie Johnson is trending upwards. Vernon Davis has a week to heal up. Michael Crabtree. That was the perfect. Talk about teams. If there was a stat or just a category or whatever, teams where the bye fell on the perfect week.
Place.
The absolute perfect time for San Francisco.
Niners set up to do some damage in the second half of the season.
I'm looking. Wouldn't be surprised if they snuck away with the NFC West.
Alden Smith coming back in week 10, I believe.
He's got one more week to polish a bottle of Russian Standard and scream at everyone at the airport, and then he's good to go.
As long as he's playing home games, they should be set. Rounding out the top 5, Phillip Rivers at Miami, and that, again, the Dolphins are a sneaky tough team.
Sneaky tough.
And so, yeah, sure, Rivers 5.
I'm not sure how I feel about Rivers there. I mean, again, we're starting him. Speaking of Rivers and Breeze, who we have 5-6 this week here, thanks to StatBot 5000 on the War Room. Rivers and Breeze. So somebody who had Rivers and also had Breeze came to me, and I had Antonio Brown and wanted him so badly. I was offered Drew Brees and Deshaun Jackson for Antonio Brown and Boobie Dixon. Would you have pulled the trigger on that?
No, man, Antonio Brown's too valuable.
But Deshaun Jackson's had some big weeks. I had like Foles.
Antonio Brown does it. Okay, if you have Foles and you needed that quarterback upgrade, okay, I can see that then.
And I'm looking for. I actually think that Breeze may sneak up to number 4 this week because the Carolina defense is banged up. And their offense is is a hurt locker too.
Yes, and I would like to believe in the New Orleans resurgence, but then we still haven't seen. Yes, we saw them healed at home in the Superdome. We've yet to see them go on the road and actually show that they're a capable offense on the road. So I'm a little bit concerned about the Saints still. Nice win against the Packers, of course, but reserve a little bit of judgment on them. Nick Foles at Houston. Nick Foles is rolling the dice every week.
9 picks on the season.
62 pass attempts in Arizona, and the team only scored 20 points.
That was absurd. 62 pass attempts. That's not what you're supposed to do with Nick Foles. You are exposing him to be exactly what he is, which is a quarterback that nobody heard anything about coming out of college, and they were happy to get that little bit of lightning in a bottle last year.
Yep.
He's not supposed to throw the ball 62 times. No, I don't care if. I don't care if Sproles was out still, or you thought it was McCoy was having an ineffective day. 62 throws from Foles is not the way to go. Yet still, in it down to the last minute.
Yeah. Close out the top 10. Russell Wilson, Carson Palmer, Ben Roethlisberger.
Last week, was it the best statistical game for a quarterback in 50 years?
Depending on your scoring system, 44 fantasy points, 500-plus yards, 6 touchdowns. Amazing. And yet, also one of the most inconsistent quarterbacks in the NFL this year. So, again, I wouldn't expect lightning in a bottle twice on this one. Baltimore's obviously a much better defense than Indianapolis. Indianapolis minus Vontae Davis.
Which, obviously, Antonio Brown and everybody else exposed early and often. But I have to say that, And we'll get to this later in wide receivers, but Big Ben's big play last week and the fact that they were able to almost treat that as QB, like an 11-on-11 scrimmage, has brought some wide receivers into the fold as well.
Absolutely. And in number 11, Cam Newton. I do like this against a New Orleans defense that definitely has holes. Jarris Byrd out for the season. And Cam Newton, while he had a terrible game against the Seahawks, did have 12 rushing attempts, a sign that ankle's on the mend. I like Newton this week. Tony Romo, number 12 versus Arizona. I'd be worried.
Big word.
He's banged up, got that injured back, and
hit where the surgery took place.
And then playing against a Cardinals defense that doesn't get a ton of sacks, but puts a lot of pressure on a quarterback, gets the hits on the quarterbacks. They sent 7 men. They blitzed all out against the Eagles with the game on the line. Fearless defense. I would be worried about Romo this week. Still likely to put up decent numbers, but...
You know how there have been a couple of these, couple of big losses for teams this year where somebody was like, ooh, I think like did the Patriots break the Bengals when they just, dragged them out in front of everyone on Sunday Night Football and just, kicked them to the curb?
Yeah.
Last week, did Pittsburgh break Indianapolis when they got a 51 spot hung on them?
Maybe.
51 burger. I'm wondering, maybe did Dallas get broken last week when the Jerry Jones #1 overall seed in the NFL parade was there for the national viewing audience to watch, and they lost to Colt McCoy.
That was
humiliating.
That was the sort of Cowboysian action I didn't expect to see until the playoffs.
Yeah, that was you throwing the New Year's party, and you have already thrown up in the tub and passed out at 9:30.
Yeah.
And the party just took place for the rest of the night with you. You are embarrassed.
Very impressive. Eli Manning versus Indianapolis, of course.
I like that matchup.
I do too. Again, you never know which Eli Manning you're going to get, but the Giants have had an extra week to prepare. I think a lot will depend on Vontae Davis's health. If he's well enough to play, that's going to affect how effective the Giants' offense is going to be because more so than any other defense, the Colts really rely on Vontae Davis as like the only quality player. They trot out every week on defense.
Yeah, you'd never all these other teams that they talk about, like the Patriots. That defense is it all centered now around Darrelle Revis? Not so much really. Is the Seahawks centered around Richard Sherman? The Colts defense 100% is all based around a cornerback that Miami really traded away for donuts on the dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Delicious donuts.
Donuts on the dollar is a great store.
Rounding out the top 15, Alex Smith versus the Jets and Andy Dalton versus Jacksonville. Andy Dalton just kind of, you don't know what you're getting every week. It's like keeping a venomous snake as a pet.
Yeah,
Might be kind of cool sometimes, but then you have a visitor and they end up dead.
He's just, you know what it is? It's just like they talked about it on Hard Knocks last year, that AJ Green, just, does anyone else smell almonds and toast? That AJ Green is his binky. Like, remember during that Hard Knocks 2013, he went out, he tweaked his calf or something, and they were all joking on the sidelines, Dalton lost his binky, he lost his security blanket.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he looks like. He looks like a kid who woke up in the middle of the night in the house and he's wandering around aimlessly looking either for his parents or his security blanket. He's not the same player.
Yeah, no, I completely
Touchdown
agree.
last week on a sneak.
Yeah, two rushing touchdowns last week.
Not happening again.
No.
Even against Jacksonville, no.
You know who I'd be looking out for who's not in the top 15 here is you backed him last week and then he didn't really come through, Ryan Tannehill.
Against the Chargers.
That's the Chargers.
Yeah, I was very disappointed in that performance. Buck 96, touchdown and a pick against Jacksonville.
But he's had almost 50 rushing yards in each of the last 3 games. When you're getting an extra bonus, like five fantasy points every single week, that's just a nice quarter. Like, they don't have to have a big game in order to get the job done. That's what's nice about your Russell Wilsons. When you're getting like an extra 5, 6, 7, 8 fantasy points, Cam Newton, when you got that rushing quarterback, it's such a nice thing. They don't have to put up 350 yards and 3 touchdowns to have a great fantasy game. That's a very nice thing.
I'm wondering, though, which Chargers defense shows up, though? Is it they're going to be the one that... Well, they are getting 10 days of rest, though they are also traveling back to the East Coast, which is a pain in the butt, as we all know,
For that 1 o'clock kick,
For the 1 o'clock kick,
Yeah.
which is always kind of tough. They looked capable. It's funny, they looked very capable against Denver, even though they gave up 35 points.
Yes.
A lot of people said that game was, in a lot of ways, the refs just sent it in a Papa John's box to Peyton and everybody else. So, I don't know. Not that I'm... Is Brady and Manning playing Sunday?
That's the word on the street, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, in fact, against each other.
What? No.
Yeah, actually, they're having the defenses not play, and it's just going to be Tom Brady and Peyton Manning throwing balls at each other.
Yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, you know
It's
who's
just-
going to win that one? Brady.
Oh, really?
Easy target.
Yeah,
The drive-in screen, as you once called it before.
that's right.
Throw that football at my head.
All right, let's move on to running backs. Who we got at the top? Arian Foster versus Philadelphia.
It's 2010 again.
It is 2010. He has 20-plus carries and 100 yards in 6 of the 7 games that he's played this season.
Amazing.
That is almost as good as DeMarco Murray, who's number
Yeah.
2 on our list. That's, 8 consecutive games for Murray now with 100 rushing yards? Will he crack the century mark against the Cardinals? What do you say?
No. They're going to try to force feed him, and it's going to come to the detriment of the offense, and they're going to have to throw the ball. Dez is going to get taken out by Pat Peterson, which means this week they're going to need Terrence Williams to come back in.
Jason Witten.
They're going to need Jason Witten and his oddly red arms with the blue compression sleeves, which I still can't figure out. It doesn't look like Jason Witten has gone to a gym in 6 years.
And yet,
He has the flabbiest arms of any tight end I've ever seen.
and yet still gets it done.
And yet still gets it done. And Escobar.
Here's what I would see.
Escobar.
Here's what I would see for DeMarco Murray. I think that because the Cardinals bring so much pressure, you're going to see Murray end up with like 60 yards receiving through screen passes, and then I don't think he gets the 100 yards rushing. I think it's going to be more like 70 or 80.
But if it's a W, he's not going to bother him at all.
Yeah,
He's
you're
already
still-
got the record.
You're still going to get your good fantasy points from Murray. It's just I don't think he's going to get the 100 yards.
I like the Cardinals. I know this is not the matchup central. This is the war room, but I like the Cardinals in this game. I think that loss really did some damage to Dallas.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah.
As
As
someone
the
who
Seahawks
roots
fan.
for an NFC team that is not the Cowboys. Moving through the rest of the top 5,
Juicy
LaShawn.
matchups, yeah.
Yeah, LaShawn McCoy at Texans. The Eagles-Texans is an interesting matchup. Le'Veon Bell versus Baltimore and Jamal Charles versus the Jets.
Do we think that LaShawn McCoy really merits the number 3 spot? Because Houston's got a decent rush defense. It's the back end of the Houston D that's really not so
I
high.
haven't seen a lot from LaShawn McCoy that I really like. He has...
Where's the signature game? We are now eight games. This is week 9. He's played 7. They've had the bye. Where's the signature game? Where is the 3-touchdown human video game?
He's cracked 100 yards, what, once or twice?
I think just once against the Giants.
It's really, if I had drafted him, if I'd had the fortune to draft him, I was never in that position, I would be very, very, very disappointed.
Furious.
I mean, not as furious as I'd be if I drafted Adrian Peterson, but still very disappointing. Jamal Charles has been a delight. I did not. I sincerely thought when he had the high ankle sprain in week 2 or 3 that we wouldn't see him for him be him really himself for like 6 weeks. It took him like 2 weeks, and he was great, and he's been great.
Now we know the Jets have the grammar. Just see you later. Jamal Charles, I wouldn't be hesitant to start him against the Jets. Now, they only gave up 2 yards of carry last week to Anthony Dixon, even though Buffalo tried to force feed him the ball. The rush defense is the only thing that the Jets really have left. That and the chance to try and out-embarrass themselves 8 more times.
Yeah. That said, you also have Jamal Charles, who's basically got the hands of a starting wide receiver.
Yeah, he'll be all over the field this week.
Yep.
He's their best player. Tell you who I really like, and it just burns my britches and gives me a capital red eye. Ronnie Hillman is probably going to finish top 5, maybe top 3.
Really?
Well, do you remember last year in the Week 9 Patriots-Broncos showdown, Broshan Moreno just had his way.
He did. He really
might have
did.
rushed, I think it was 223 or 220 yards.
That's a big game.
Huge game. And the thing is, Ronnie Hillman is the closest approximation, not in size, but in sort of his performance and speed and the way he handles the game. I could easily see the Broncos trying to replicate that and just hoping that Peyton doesn't do what he did last year, which was kind of suck for most of the game. Although it's going to be like 35, windy, and maybe snowing.
Ugh.
I know.
Ugh.
If only I were going.
Round out the top 10, Andre Ellington at Dallas. He's been effective. He's been very effective. No, not necessarily.
Don't care how you get the points.
Not getting it done yards per carry, perhaps, but definitely getting the passes on the swing passes, the screens, getting it done. Marshawn Lynch, several weeks, I think 4 weeks or so, without cracking, I think 80 rushing yards. Slow for him. Still getting in the end zone for the most part, but I expect him to get fed versus Oakland.
Home against Oakland?
Yeah, I think he's probably a top 3 back this week. Get little Sean McCoy out of that 3 spot, put Marshawn Lynch there. And then round out the top 10, Mark Ingram at Carolina, who, credit to you, you called him as having a great week against the Packers. Bravo, Nick
24
Stevens.
carries, 172 yards, and a touchdown, resembling the running back. We wondered which Alabama running back that weighed over 220 pounds was going to have the week of an Alabama running back in the Dome. And Eddie Lacy turned out to be his best T.J. Yeldon impersonation, whereas Mark Ingram just blew up. Finally, we waited 4.5 years to finally see that game.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah.
And then Giovanni Bernard versus Jacksonville, inexplicably at number 10. You can run on the Jags, and you can do anything on the Jags.
Do you think the Jags, the question, honestly, when they meet for the coin toss at midfield, when they send the captains out, do they just say, like, for 100 you can do this, for 200 you can do that, and for 500 you can do anything you want all over this football team? So gross.
Oh, it should not be legal.
It's not in 49 states.
No, it's not. Giovanni Bernard is a must-play this week, and certainly higher than 10th. Let's go to the back half of the top 20. Ahmad Bradshaw is a start every week, and Trent Richardson a little bit dinged up. Bradshaw versus the Giants, sure.
It's Ahmad Bradshaw night. This is his big comeback effort against the Giants.
Revenge game.
But yeah, he's going to run angry. He's going to be rangry. That sounded weirdly inappropriate.
Yeah.
Jerick McKinnon, averaging over 5 yards a carry last week, 16 for 83. But they're just like, as soon as they're in the red zone, they're like, all right, fast kid, we're good.
Yeah.
We're going to either hand it off to the tattooed guy or Teddy Bridgewater's going to throw it to the other team. Have a seat. Relax. Grab a Snickers.
This was working too well. Get out of here.
Yeah, get out of here. You're elusive, speedy, and you have game-changing speed. Why don't you take 5? Take 5.
Yeah. Thanks for your work, but you didn't get the memo. We're the Vikings.
Yeah. Blowing the chance to get the top 5 pick.
Alfred Morris at Minnesota makes the next call, and sure, why not? I don't have feelings about that either way. Frank Gore versus St. Louis, that should be higher.
Big time.
Yeah,
He had a week off.
Yeah, a fresh Frank Gore.
Frank, old freshy Frank.
Fresh Frank, getting it done as the Niners get healthier. Who do you like out of the rest of these? Justin Forsett at 15, Brandon Oliver, Denard Robinson at Cincinnati. This is interesting. I was not after the first 100-yard game that Robinson had in Week 7. I was like, it's a fluke. That that's the Browns. You can do that. Then he had over 100 yards on just 19 touches, and I think Denard Robinson might actually be the closest thing that the Jaguars have to someone who is, quote, for real.
Yeah, since the late days of Freddie Taylor and the early days of Mojo Drew.
Fred Taylor.
Remember him?
I do.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. If you said no, then that would be upsetting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like a young Natron Means.
Well,
no, he's not.
it was not at all.
Nothing like
Natron Means was a human bowling ball.
He was.
Mojo Drew looked like Natron Means if he just got hit with a tiny shrink ray.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, who do I like? Brandon Oliver. And here's the thing. Okay, the Dolphins can stop the run. They're not the best at it. They're not the worst at it. But the consistency with which they kept trying to get him into space and feed him the ball against the Broncos, who have an excellent run defense, was impressive. Of course, it may have come to the detriment of the final score and the outcome for the Chargers, but they're determined to not just rely on Rivers. You know what they're determined not to do? Say, Phillip Rivers, you're going to have to pull a Nick Foles and throw 62 times.
Yeah.
So they're going to try it again this Sunday, and I think he'll have much more success.
Rounding out the top 20, Chris Ivory at Kansas City, Ben Tate versus Tampa Bay, a terrible game last week, and Lamar Miller versus San Diego. I have to say, as much as I hate to say good things about Chris Ivory, Kansas City is allowing 5.2 yards per carry to running backs. Chris Ivory's a good play. Yeah, you just...
It's the Jets.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Okay, Chris Ivory last week, 2 touchdowns.
Yes.
Yeah, he got against Buffalo too. They got close enough a couple times, and he got in there.
Runs
hard every time, punched it in. Okay, if you have to, sure. Yeah, I think he's a fine start. It's just, I don't know. There's just always something that feels a little like, starting Chris Ivory feels like you broke the 5-second rule with food. Like it felt like that piece of pizza fell cheese down for like 15, 20 seconds, like a minute.
Well, listen, we've got 6 teams on bye. people are hungry for running backs to start. Which backup running back who gets, who's the second guy in a lineup, would you play this week of any of the teams? We're talking like Niall Davis, we're talking Lorenzo Taliaferro. Who's that running?
I saw the point house last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can run on the Steelers too. I might start Talia Shire.
Yeah.
I'll tell you who I would. If Sproles starts this week, I would definitely get Sproles back in there because all he did was make touchdowns when he was playing earlier before the MCL sprain. I would not start Jonas Gray. Now, remember I touted him last week, and you were like, well, Jonas Gray, that's the bureau chief in the Spider-Man comics. Yeah, who is that, Nick Stevens? You didn't say that. I just made that up.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no. But you scoffed at it nonetheless.
Well, I just scoffed at the fact that I just never heard his name before.
Of course.
And he had 83 yards, though.
Yeah, 16 for 83. Nice.
And then I promptly picked him up off the waiver wire.
You son of a ditch.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice work.
Thanks.
Well, I wouldn't start him this week because the Broncos are pretty stout against the run.
Well, I don't have a choice, so I'm starting him anyway.
Okay. Well, if you're one of those teams on a bye, somebody who burst on the scene last week, Theo Riddick, we recommended on the old Keepers Waiver, a show that you usually host and I filled in for. Recommend you pick him up. Problem
Nicely
is,
done.
Lions on the bye.
Womp womp.
I know. Too bad. So this is a tough week for running backs. This is a beggars can't be choosers kind of week.
Indeed. So let's wrap that. Let's try that again. Let's wrap up that running back talk and move on to wide receivers.
Here.
Number 1, Antonio Brown. Unseating our usual Demaryius Thomas. Antonio Brown just getting it done every week. We have to mention right now, we're of course looking forward to Week 9. We have to pause and look back at the ridiculousness of wide receivers in Week 8. There were 9 different wideouts who scored 20-plus fantasy points in standard leagues, not PPR of any sort. You look around and let's see, where's this stat?
Demaryius had a huge week. Sanders blew up the internet.
Manny Sanders. I was loving that Thursday night show. I started him in one league, and then I promptly faced off against a guy with Rob Gronkowski and Ben Roethlisberger. And it's just like his quarterback was on bye.
Is the name of his team 6'5" and up? White, please.
No, man, it was
wow. That's
rough.
Weird. That is wow. Who has that combo?
Sammy Watkins had himself a game on just 3
Big game.
catches. Should have had 2 touchdowns. Got a little excited.
Yeah, he did.
And yeah, if you look around, Randall Cobb had something like 5 for 126 and a touchdown. Didn't even crack the top 10 of fantasy wideouts in Week 8.
Crazy, right?
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
A lot of fun to watch.
It was great, and again, I'm always Alshon Jeffrey did not. Brandon Marshall had a terrible week last week. Brandon LaFell.
Brandon LaFell.
He had 11. He went 11 for 11 for $124 and a touchdown.
I'm going to admit something. Paid $11 for him on that free agent acquisition budget.
Really?
That's how highly I think of Brandon LaFell.
$11.
Yeah.
Well, right now he's on pace for over 60, 900-something yards and 6 touchdowns.
This is a team that's drowning. I have to do some serious makeover in order to salvage the next couple of weeks.
You're chipping off pieces of the boat to bring people on board to help bail water. Yeah, I got you.
So that's a lost cause, but I'm hoping for something
and Macklin
big.
too. Just Jeremy Macklin. The Jeremy Macklin renaissance.
Yeah. Woo. 30 fantasy points, despite getting his clock cleaned early in the game.
And wasn't it nice to see Larry Fitzgerald hop in the pool with Don Amici and Wilford Brimley?
His longest touchdown reception of his career.
What a treat.
80 yards.
Yeah.
That's nice.
That was great to see
That was fun reminiscing. Let's actually talk about this week.
Okay. Tony Brown, obviously up the top. Demaryius Thomas. There's been a lot of speculation on how the Patriots are going to deploy their #1 rated pass defense against the Broncos. Obviously, Peyton's going to get his. These receivers are going to get theirs. You can't fully stop them. They're not unstoppable, nor are they stoppable. So is it going to be Revis on Demaryius, and then will you see Browner just gang tackling Julius Thomas? Therefore, that leaves open Emmanuel Sanders. Maybe he's going to have another big week.
It's a hydra. The Broncos hydra.
It's not going to be Welker.
Julius Thomas has had 2 consecutive quiet weeks, so I'll be...
Yeah, what's that all about?
I don't know. We'll talk about it in tight ends.
Ooh.
TY, the T stands for Ty Hilton, number 4 at the Giants. I mean, he's done really well, but I don't know about number 4. Really? I guess when your quarterback's throwing for 300 yards a game,
someone's got to catch him.
True.
Reggie Wayne, do we have an update on his health status? Has he practiced yet?
I have no idea.
Me neither.
All right.
People in the stat booth are going to check for us. Dante Moncrief could be creeping on in.
Ooh, another guy that I'm looking forward to picking up in a couple different leagues. Dante Moncrief looking to get his Looking to get a start.
Looking to get his creep on.
Yeah.
His creep on.
I would happily start Dante Moncrief this week. Manny Sanders, top 6, is number 6 wide receiver, and Kelvin Benjamin versus New Orleans as the number 7 wideout this week. That is clearly the benefit of the Bears wide receivers, the Packers wide receivers, the Falcons wide receivers all being on bye, because we would not see Kelvin Benjamin in the top 10 otherwise.
Still went up last week, double covered in the back end of that Seattle secondary.
Yeah.
And
Richard Sherman, all-time 2 All-Pros.
Draped on him.
Yeah.
And made the catch. Still had a decent, very decent 15 fantasy points.
Yeah.
He has produced double-digit fantasy points, I think, in 7 of his 8 games. Just been a complete revelation and total surprise.
Yeah.
And a must start, and a lot of fun to watch too. Big guy, big target.
Another one who's fun to watch week in and week out, Deshaun Jackson. He's our number 8. Steve Smith back into the fold at Pittsburgh.
Robbed of a game winner last week.
Well, yeah, I think he robbed himself a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
But tell you what, angry Steve Smith just got a little angrier, and you know he's going to rise to the occasion. He's like, what's that? We hate these guys? Oh, I hate them too. I think he's gonna have a great game. Mike Wallace, what's he doing in the top 10? Are we back on the Mike Wallace bandwagon?
Sure. Got 5 touchdowns on the year. Why not?
Sure. Okay. And this is curious. A.J. Green, back in the fold, healthy again. Andy Dalton's binky.
Healthy-ish.
Healthy-ish. So he's our number 11 guy. Really?
Well, I mean, you know what that's going to be? That's until you show me that you can be enough of A.J. Green or a reasonable facsimile and not just a decoy or the Madame Tussauds wax statue of yourself.
Sure.
Then you got to earn your way back in. Of course, on sticker price, he should be in the top 5. But
yeah. We'll wait and see on him. Speaking of which, number 12, Keenan Allen.
Hey, there you are.
You know what it took is us not talking about him for him to get in the end zone.
You know what it took for him to go back to Denver.
Yeah.
We had a huge game last year.
Keenan Allen Wayans.
Does incredibly well against he needs to play the Broncos every week.
I'd like that.
I'd
watch that game every week. Broncos Chargers?
Yeah. Every week.
Yeah. And then 13, Michael Floyd, a big donut. Donut last week. John Brown and Larry Fitzgerald both had huge games. Michael Floyd, invisible. 0 catches.
Attorney John Brown stealing the thunder from Michael Floyd. That's a fast little dude.
He is very fast.
He is. People may lose him.
Yeah.
He's just this little dude.
It's just a one little stutter step and he was gone.
God, off to the races.
Let's see. We got DeAndre Hopkins and Andre Johnson. A couple of Texans at 14 and 15 versus Philadelphia.
Because people saw what you could do last week to the Philadelphia secondary, which you kind of have your way.
I mean, that's the thing is Philly wins that game if they don't allow 2 70-plus yard touchdown catches.
Inexcusable.
Yeah.
Inexcusable.
Yep. And then Doug Baldwin appearing in the top 20 for the first time this year.
Well, somebody's got to be the number 1 target there.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that as we've seen with the departure of Percy Harvin, is that Baldwin's pretty reliable. The Seahawks don't throw it a whole lot, but he's kind of the clear-cut. Last year with Golden Tate in the fold, it was kind of like who's going to get the ball, who's going to get the touchdown, Golden Tate or Doug Baldwin. And you just don't have that same kind of question with Jermaine Kearse as the number 2. Kearse has got good size, he's got good hands, but he's just not quite that reliable third down chain moving target the way that it was up in the air between Golden Tate and Doug Baldwin last year. I like Doug Baldwin as a play.
Yeah, Russell Wilson is one of those kind of quarterbacks where his favorite wide receiver is the open wide receiver.
Yeah.
He doesn't lock in, he doesn't just have, hot buttered pancake eyes for somebody where it's just like, this is how he doesn't Matt Stafford it.
Yeah.
So, could it be Jermaine Kearse one week? Could it be what's the name of that other tight end who caught the winning pass?
Luke Wilson.
Guys? Luke Wilson, that's right.
Yeah. No relation.
Luke Wilson.
to Luke Wilson or Russell Wilson. Mohamed Sanu all the way down at 17.
Crazy good catch last week.
He just
Another good game.
Gets it done every single week. He has been one of the biggest fantasy surprises of the year. And so reliable.
Figures that's the Rutgers player Belichick doesn't draft.
Yeah. And then rounding out the top 20, Ruben Randall versus the Colts. Yes, please. Larry Fitzgerald, reborn. He's at Dallas, but he's going to get a bunch of Orlando Scandrick, isn't he? And then number 20, Brandon LaFell versus Denver.
Now, who gets Aqib Talib? That's another good question. Do the Broncos deploy him on Gronk? Because they did that last year to Jimmy Graham when the Patriots played the Saints, and Graham went catchless.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
That's kind of exciting. You know what? We'll see what happens when they play the game, and that's why they play them on Sundays.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Any given Sunday.
Well, It could be any given Sunday, but this particular Sunday. Yeah, no one says this particular Sunday.
No one saw that. No one saw the movie this particular Sunday.
Talk about came and went, just like right in there. Al Pacino, like, you guys think you're gonna perform up to snuff on this particular Sunday.
Oliver Stone's finest. Any other wide receivers? So we've talked about a bunch of guys that people are going to start regardless. Any other kind of sleepy guys you like?
Well, I'll tell you, on ye old waiver wires, and we had mentioned earlier, like the play of Big Ben maybe bringing a couple guys up.
Martavis Bryant.
Yeah, Martavis Bryant, 2 touchdowns last week.
Yeah.
A lot of things coming out of Pittsburgh. Cigarette smoke, steal. Also, news that he may be securing the number 2 receiver
Ahead
spot.
of Marcus Wheaton. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see it happening.
Drafted lower expectations, but he's outperforming Wheaton. Maybe snagging that job.
I'd like that.
Julian Edelman also has fallen out of favor because he had two meh weeks in a row, dropped another couple passes last Sunday. Always does well against the Broncos.
Okay, so you like Julian Edelman as
Although
a
Chris
player?
Harris Jr. could maybe be matched up against him, so I'm not quite sure. He's actually played pretty well so far this year, but I'd sneak Edelman back into my lineup if I had the room.
All right, very well.
Okay.
Good talk. Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about tight ends.
Ooh!
The number 1 tight end is Rob Gronkowski versus Denver. Listen, fantastic week. 140 plus yards, 3 touchdowns.
Carrying humans into the end zone.
Totally sank my fantasy dreams last week because I played against him. But I will say, I don't know about the number 1 ranking this week. I think that's a little too reactive. Whereas Denver, if they do stick Aqib Talib on him, if they do, I don't know. I think that they're going to be a little bit more focused on Rob Gronkowski than, say, other teams were.
Or the Bears, who couldn't cover the news or themselves coming out of the ocean.
Yeah,
they're awful.
They're terrible.
That was an embarrassing performance.
That was awesome.
It was really fun to watch. They had no idea where they were.
And I'm someone who took the Bears to cover, and it was still just, I love a good garbage fire of a game.
Yeah, people were running from that kitchen. That restaurant is already collecting insurance. That was a grease fire of epic proportions.
Yeah.
Loved every second of it. And how about Lamar Houston tearing up his ACL doing the Tulloch, which of course everyone forgets was actually patented by Bill Gramatica.
The ACL tear on a celebration. Yep. Number 2, Julius Thomas.
Would you make him number 1? He hasn't had huge weeks. He hasn't had big games against the Patriots.
It's true, but he's been invisible for the last 2 weeks, and I don't think it's gonna happen 3 weeks in a row.
So is it?
Because Peyton Manning mixes it up. It's Demaryius Thomas 1 week, it's Manny Sanders 1 week. Julius Thomas is gonna come back. It's gonna come back around to him.
Why does it look like you really hope so? You just want to.
It's because if I say it,
don't poke the bear.
If I say
it's
it with
sleeping.
force, Nick, it means that I'm confident it'll be true. It doesn't matter if I can prove it. I can't prove it. People aren't going to go back to this and say, oh, hey, remember when you said this? You were wrong. I mean, like 1 or 2 people will on Twitter, but, they don't matter. What matters is that I sound confident. Julius Thomas is for sure the number one tight end this week. How can you argue with that? I sounded so confident.
Wow, that's the secret to sports broadcasting.
Oh, yeah.
You don't need to know what you're doing. I've been struggling trying to actually pretend like I know what I'm talking about.
You've been looking up stats like a sucker.
Oh, why bother?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Ooh,
tight ends.
Antonio Gates is number 3 at Miami. Mm-hmm. Sure, he's great every week. Not every week, but most weeks.
Pretty much. Come on. He scored against Denver last week.
Healthy.
Yep.
Jerk.
Somehow gets it done. Somehow, I don't know, every week gets it done.
What about Jimmy Graham? Oh, yeah. I was about to go into Greg Olsen at number 4.
Oh, we skipped right over Greg Olsen.
Who's been fantastic every single week.
Mm-hmm. Even after Vontaze Burfict twisted his ankle, had a very emotional year, getting targeted more than he's used to.
Yeah.
They're going to have to be showing some little treadwear on the tires now, but he's great. He's having a great season.
Yeah. And you were saying about Jimmy Graham. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, please, by all means. All I was going to say was, got back in the end zone last week. Maybe that shoulder isn't fully healed, but the Saints showed the full comportment of weapons last week. They got everybody involved. Ken Steels. Cooks was looking good.
Yeah.
They can run the ball
Finally had
now.
a Brandon Cooks game.
Finally, about time.
Yeah.
Now I can see why they invested the draft pick in him, because he looked dangerous.
Leads rookie wide receivers in catches.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, 40 catches already.
But Benjamin must lead in yards.
Yes.
Probably in touchdowns, too.
Correct.
Yeah, Jimmy Graham. I could see Jimmy Graham, old Jimmy G, sneaking his way up there, top 3 this week.
I do. And then we get into the second tier. And when we say second tier tight ends, it's kind of like you and I live in second tier apartments compared to like a penthouse on Park Avenue.
Yes, that would be perfectly nice places in Brooklyn that most people would be happy to partake of.
Yeah.
Happy to call home.
But
nice spot.
certainly nothing like the view of Central Park that people enjoy from Fifth Avenue.
No, it's like neither of us lives in the apartment that
John Lennon got shot at.
Or Zool takes. I was going to say that Zool takes over in Ghostbusters.
Yeah. We went very different directions there.
Wow, we did. There I went with like a bright, cheery, classic 80s comedy, and you went the death of like
A beloved
faith and
musician.
hope in America. Now I get it. Okay.
That's
Jimmy Graham is an elite tight end.
you nailed it.
Ooh.
The wheels came off. Anyway, 6
We
through
had
10.
wheels.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were up on blocks, but you know.
That's true.
6 through 10 is Dwayne Allen, Jordan Reed, Vernon Davis, Jason Witten, Heath Miller. Yeah, I don't really. Yeah.
Jordan Reed. You know, look, okay, granted, only had 40 yards last week, but Colt McCoy looked his way frequently, especially when he needed big plays. 7 catches, I'll take that. So if you're in a, okay, it's only 5.5 points, or depending on what the yardage scoring is, between
Sure.
5.5 and 7.5, but he was looked at pretty much about as much as any other receiver or pass-catching human being for the Washington football team.
Absolutely.
I could see him maybe moving up a couple of spots. He's healthy.
Yeah.
In Minnesota, they give up some points.
They do indeed. As we move into the
Back end.
the back end there, the 11 through 15, Zach Ertz, Tim Wright, Travis Kelce, Larry Donnell, and Charles Clay. At 13, I like Travis Kelce versus the Jets a lot. He's only playing about 50% of snaps, and he's had a couple quiet weeks. You look at the Jets, the pass defense, not just the secondary, also the linebackers, some injuries. I think Travis Kelce's going to have a great opportunity, especially with the Jets keying on the run, stopping Jamal Charles. You're going to see Travis Kelce have himself a big week.
Yeah, David Harris can't cover everybody at the same time.
No.
I'll tell you a couple other things. Tim Wright, I was telling you before the show, would not be surprised if he catches another touchdown this week. I was going to say ta-da, but I said touchdown.
These are the Pats and Broncos. They always have. It's always a 35 to 28 game. You know, it's never you never have a
35.
you never have a 13 to 10 slugfest with these two teams. No. It's always 4, 5, 6 touchdowns in a game for each team.
The only defensive struggle is going to be if you are splitting like a dozen wings with somebody and your buddy just houses his first 6. And you're like busy watching the game, and you've got like 5 left over, and he's just like, he won't miss. You know, you're not going to miss. Do you know anyone who does that, by the way?
No.
I got wing vultured last week, and someone told me it was because I didn't get to it quickly enough.
Ooh, that's messed up.
I thought that's a dude crime. Like that's not right. If you know if you see amongst people there's an even amount, you can everyone can do the math. Like that's 3 wings apiece. That's 4 wings apiece.
Yeah.
Don't eat 5 or 6.
Here's the thing. You can, but you need to ask permission. You're like, if there's, it's like same thing when you order like a plate of oysters or something like that, where it's a shared thing. We're like, hey, this is a commodity that we're all spending money on, and things are sitting out there for a while. The wings are getting cold. The oysters are starting to not be ice cold. Be like, hey, is everybody done here? Can I get in on this?
Right.
Like, because I've already had my 3. You guys mind if I have another one? You have to seek permission for that. You can't just go for it.
Like the nachos, they may even get bust, and there's still like half a plate left, and the cheese is congealing. So now it's just turning into like a Franken quesadilla. But I love that.
Yeah.
I'll always ask.
Yeah.
Always ask. And that is why Tim Wright is an excellent play at number 12 this week.
That is flawless segue.
Sports.
Flawless segue,
No,
sir.
Tim Wright actually last week, 7 targets, 7 receptions, 61 yards, touchdown. On the year, every single pass he's had thrown to him by Brady, he has caught. Touchdowns in 3 of his last 4 games. And oftentimes it is these weird guys that score big touchdowns in these Patriots-Broncos games. I'll give you a sleeper tight end if y'all are desperate this week. Y'all desperate. You know who you should run out and maybe grab?
Jacob Tammy.
Yep. Because guess who scored a touchdown in both Pats-Broncos games last year?
Jacob Tammy. I read your mind.
You
Also
did.
saw it written on your paper.
You can't spell Matt Alford without MF.
True. All right, let's take it home. Let's talk about defense and special teams. The various units, as we see, number 1, is the team playing the Jacksonville Jaguars, as it should be pretty much every week.
Don't bother writing Bengals. Just write whoever
Team playing
playing the Jaguars.
2 pick sixes last week, and I had been in the habit. I'd been in for 3 consecutive weeks. I had been playing, just cycling through teams that are playing the Jaguars, and then I got out of that habit last week, and then the Dolphins bang, just killed me. Really hated myself for that.
Well, it's okay because a lot of people actually had buys. The Bengals weren't that good for a couple of weeks, of course, when they gave up all those points to Carolina, and then when they got whipped by the Pats. So the Bengals were available in a surprising number of leagues. So I went in and grabbed them in a couple of leagues this week for the matchup play.
Great call.
And listen, if you've got people that don't worry about defense in your league, just the same way they don't worry about kickers, and you have the possibility of having like a steady defense, like maybe Houston or I don't know, maybe for all I know, maybe it's Arizona, but you can sneak up a matchup play in there. Go get it.
Yeah, go get it.
Go get it, big time.
Agreed. You know what? So Seahawks are hosting the Raiders. That's also a no-brainer. Of course, if you have the Seahawks defense, it means you selected them too early in your draft. A really disappointing effort so far. They're not pressuring the quarterback, dropping interceptions, forcing fumbles, and then they're not recovering any fumbles.
Do you think, who is it the loss of? Is it the loss of Red Bryant? Is it the loss of...
You know, I think it's really more so than the loss of the defensive line because Michael Bennett's still playing well.
Bruce Irvin's looks like he's having an excellent season.
Yeah, Bruce Irvin made a couple of huge plays at the end of the Panthers game there. The defensive line is not generating as much pressure. I think part of that is getting more heavy use out of some of the guys instead of rotating fresh guys out. But I think most of it is just regression. Like, you know, when you force so many turnovers, they led the NFL in turnovers forced last year. You know, this is the year where dropping those passes. They're not recovering those fumbles. And
that's just not going to happen. The ball is not always going to bounce your way.
So, you know, I do think that the Raiders are certainly a team that allows for that to happen a little bit more often. They're a great play this week, but certainly you're a sucker if you draft it.
And if the Seahawks do not tee off on the Raiders and serve themselves up a little 12th man, super loud,
I'll tell you what, as a
Seahawks
fan and seeing their play this season so far, I would be very heartened by like a 42-3 game. I just want a bloodletting, just an absolute massacre, just to feel better about my team. You know, it's like just trot the sacrificial Raiders out there and let me see them steamrolled.
I'd be triple dipping all day.
Yeah.
I'd order popcorn just so I could throw it up in the air.
So of course it's going to be like a 20-18 game that I'm stress drinking during the entire time.
Oh no, you're going to stress drink through 17-13.
Yeah, yay. All right. Oh, anyway, so let's get back to defenses. Niners versus St. Louis. That's another great call. Chiefs. You like whoever's playing the Jets every single week.
That's my new
6 turnovers.
6. Geno Smith last week
completed more passes to the opponent than to his own team.
2 for 5, 8 yards, 3 picks. And he blames it on communication issues with his helmet, that his little transponder wasn't working on the first 2 picks. Right. That's why he underthrew that ball to Percy. That's why no.
Just bad decisions.
It's really fun. I wish they would start him again.
Yeah, I
wish they would.
Although Michael Vick can cough the ball up too.
Yeah, he can.
He's more of a fumbler than an interception prone guy.
Well, because when he runs and he's still greased lightning. Why does he run with the ball down here?
I don't know.
It's not even carrying, like, you know what they always say, like when somebody gets strip sacked, like he was just running with the ball like it was a loaf of bread. I have never carried bread down here by my knee.
No. I always carry bread as a football tuck because
that's so weird.
Because I'm a professional, Nick.
Yeah, and I know that somebody's coming for that.
Yeah.
What do you carry down by your knee? A 6-pack.
Yeah, my baby.
So funny because a 6-pack I refer to 6-packs as my baby.
Yeah,
so that's why I carry them down there.
Number 5, the Browns defense versus Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay offense has been garbage. The Browns defense has kind of been garbagey too, but still worth a play. Cardinals defense, again.
They're going to give up points, but they're going to get their statisticals.
They've been good about forcing turnovers. They haven't gotten many sacks. I think only 7 sacks on the year, which, you know, through 8 games, not all that impressive. But getting the pressure and you've got an error-prone team. You got DeMarco Murray. He can cough up the ball pretty easily.
I know which Cowboys are going to come back out. That'll probably dictate which Arizona Cardinals defense we see this week.
I think a great play this week is the Vikings, number 7 versus Washington. 20 sacks. They're actually the number 7 fantasy defense in the NFL this year.
Nice pick last week in overtime against Pencil Neck
Exactly.
Lennon. Only
And,
gave up 13 points to Tampa.
20 sacks. 20 sacks. Everson Griffin getting it done.
Anthony Barr.
And we're looking at either Colt McCoy or Robert Griffin, knocking the rust off.
Yeah, a rusty RG3 or Howdy Doody.
Do you remember there was a time when like RG3 was like there was talks about like him being, one of the best, the future of the NFL, and now it's just like, will we ever even see a shadow of that?
I know.
man
Can you
again?
believe my son is going to grow up going, is that the guy from the Subway commercials?
Yeah.
That's it.
He's really sticking with those braids too.
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah.
You should just cut them all off.
You get a fresh start.
Yeah,
Get a
go
fresh start. You can't convince us that your knees are ever going to be good, but like we can see something visually. Maybe that'll buy
Just,
him.
you know what? Get rid of that whole look of like, he's got that guy from Alien Resurrection look right now. Just buzz him straight off. Go clean.
Yeah.
Lean, mean, RG3.
That was good. That was good.
I'm done. Oh, I peaked 20 minutes ago. I don't have much else to offer.
Let's round up the top 10.
I don't know how I feel about the Indianapolis Colts against the Giants, but again, with 6 teams on bye and not a lot of other great defenses to show.
Yeah, I don't know about
it's tough.
the Colts in the top 10 at all.
Yeah.
Like, you'd have to hold someone in my family hostage to make me start the Colts defense.
Yeah, I like Texans at home. I'll take a chance with way down there at 13.
That's
with
preposterous. They've got
the
like
Nick
J.J.
Foles.
Watt alone is worth like 7 points, 7 fantasy points.
With the way that Foles has been throwing the ball all over the yard.
Yeah.
Or even even like the Chargers at Miami.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah, boy, that Kansas City, they were owned in like 90% of all leagues. If there was any chance they were available in your league, that would have been nice.
Yeah. I got nothing else to say about defense.
No, that's really it. And we don't do kickers on this show. I
Nope.
wish we did, because then I could talk about Cody Parkey, but I'll just say it. Cody Parkey. All right, I'm good.
That's good.
Totally good.
That's good. So let's move on to questions then.
Yeah, let's wrap it up
got a
with
couple
some
questions.
viewer questions. Cue the theme song.
Questions. How's that?
All right, what's the first one?
Daniel Prentice wants to know, who are your top 5 RBs for the rest of the season?
Ooh. Well, I reserve that usually. I should have just gone, Top 5 RBs the rest of the way. Okay, Daniel Prentice.
All right.
I wonder if his middle name is
As we go shuffling through our running back rankings.
The rest of the way?
Yeah, rest of the
Arian
way.
Foster, without a doubt.
Really? You got
You
some
know
faith
what?
in that?
Ronnie Hillman.
Really? Okay.
I think he's taken that job. Monte Ball is not getting it back. Plus, also the reports were that not only are they so impressed with the way Ronnie Hillman has performed, but that the injury would make it hard for him to actually be able to handle a full load.
You can't.
I couldn't even stop myself. I was like, just don't laugh. Just don't laugh. You know what you're going to say. Don't laugh.
When was the last time you said full load without breaking out into laughter?
No, but handle a full load. Oh, God. I'm sorry. Okay. Arian Foster, Ronnie Hillman, Marshawn Lynch. You know, I think I'm going to go Jamal Charles, even though he is in the AFC West. It's tough. It's not going to be LaShawn McCoy. DeMarco? I mean, are we worried? We don't have any reason to worry about
Here's the
DeMarco
thing.
yet, do we?
Everyone has been talking about DeMarco Murray as like, oh, he's always going to get injured. No, he doesn't always have to get injured. He played 14 games last year. That's pretty good for a running back.
Yeah.
I'm going to say DeMarco Murray's. I'm going to keep riding him the rest of the way. Arian Foster might be number 1, number 2, but Foster and Murray is my 1 and 2. I'll go Jamal Charles 3, Marshawn Lynch 4, and then Ronnie Hillman 5. I think those are, and then guys that are also playable every single week. Giovanni Bernard would be my number 6.
See, I would probably go with Eddie Lacy as my number 6. He's got
Yeah.
some pretty tasty matchups the rest of the way,
It's an
and
excellent point.
he's looked good of late.
Excellent point.
Not a lot of faith shown by either of us in Le'Veon Bell.
You know,
What is it about him? Even though he was a boss in college, top 5 in yards so far, no reason to show.
because here's the thing: he's the Steelers put up 51 points, and he did not get in the end zone. And it's not like it's not for. They're just not using him as like this boss goal line back. Like if they're on the goal line, they're going to go fade to Antonio Brown or Heath Miller in the middle of the field, and it's just kind of, he's just not going to get that. He's not the workhorse for the team.
Yeah, you know how they say there are certain quarterbacks that are great from the 20 to the 20? Le'Veon Bell has become a 20 to 20 running back.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Okay. Agreed.
Next question. Not Gizmo says Lance Kendricks or Jared Cook.
All right. Well, I'll not to get all Socratic about it, but I'll ask a question back. Who are those people?
I think they both play for the Rams.
Yes. So somebody is desperate enough that they're asking which of the two Rams tight ends should I start this week in San Francisco?
I want to know more. Like, who's holding a gun to your head saying you have to start a Rams tight end?
Or like, which road are you abandoned, naked, and dollarless by?
Yeah. You know what? If you're that desperate for a tight end, pick up Michael Rivera of the Raiders. The Seahawks have allowed 12 passing touchdowns this year, 8 of them to tight ends. And Michael Rivera has a way of getting in the end zone. That's what he does for the Raiders. Yeah, why not?
That's great. Yeah, Tim Wright might still be out there. We just told you earlier today. Hey, not Gizmo. Hop online, grab Jacob Tamme.
There you go.
80% chance that guy sneaks in for one of his annoying little Tamme touchdowns.
Don't give yourself a Rams tight end. Don't do that to
Kendricks
yourself.
or Cook?
Don't do that yourself. No.
Gross.
Stop that.
Boo, not ooh.
At Dondo22 says,
Dundo.
is Antonio Gates a viable tight end option for the entire season? I have Martellus Bennett on the bench, but might try to sell him.
Who would you sell between those two?
Gates.
Yeah, Bennett, even last week in that just absolute horsewhipping that the Bears received from the pass.
6 catches, 80, 90 yards.
Touchdown. And did you see the touchdown catch?
Yeah.
Fell down on his ass, put up his left hand, and caught the ball.
Yeah, he's great.
Unbelievable.
He's great. He's actually, I feel like he's more reliable week to week than Alshon Jeffrey or Brandon Marshall.
At this point now.
In terms of starting a tight end versus starting a wide receiver, the positions taken into account.
Oh, I feel badly. We did not mention Matt Forte as well, the number 2. Like 60 catches for the top 5 backs the rest of the way. We took some obvious shortcuts around the bye.
Yeah.
Probably should have thrown Forte in there. Now, excuse me, back to what we were
quite
discussing.
Correct.
Sorry about that.
Let the record show that we think Matt Forte is a top 5 back.
Indeed.
Okay,
let it be shown. Unstricken it, please. I might sell high on. Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like Bennett, he's gonna get the work. He's super dependable, and Gates has been awesome too.
And Gates, he's awesome, but he's also
he's Antonio Gates.
He's also 7 years older, 8 years older, and has an injury history that.
When's the last time you played 16 games?
I don't recall.
I wouldn't expect you to be able to know that.
No.
But there's little to no chance that he's not. That he's got 1 game, 2 games.
Yeah. Nah, I don't.
No, I would sell. His value may never be higher.
Yeah, and also the Bears play a softer schedule. All right, and then last question from Ben Gonzalez. I think he changed his Twitter name for Halloween.
Wow.
I think he's probably Ben Gonzalez. Although if his name is really Ben Gonzalez, it's Benghazi? I don't know. He says, who's your favorite Lord of the Rings character and why?
Oh, wow. Jeez, that's a tough one.
Yeah, I'll let you think about it. Here's my problem with Lord of the Rings, is that I don't think that there are any interesting characters.
No?
I mean, like, okay, Aragorn, sure, I dig the warrior, the masculine type. I dig that, but I read the book, the first book in the series, and I was like, oh, another 3-page song about trees. And like the only thing that's fully developed in the books.
That was the original title of the book, actually.
Yeah, the only thing that's fully developed in the Lord of the Rings books is like the setting. Everything else is just kind of like, there's like character pieces moving around. It's not like, I'm won over by characters because of their awesome dialogue or heroic deeds. It's just all kind of like, well, this ring's making them do whatever, and they're trying to get in the, I don't know. It's and you look at the movies too. It's like it's all lush settings and cool set pieces, but it's not like I'm won over by the characters themselves. Maybe Gimli.
Let's see. There's Samwise. He's a noble fellow, accompanying young Frodo on the journey.
Yeah.
Really, with nothing to gain except for scorched feet, dehydration, and a chance to watch someone throw a friggin' piece of jewelry in a volcano.
Yeah.
Of course, there's Frodo, a man on a mission. But the Lord of the Rings is one of those. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can do it.
Yeah. I'll tell you what.
Gandalf. Is that the obvious one?
Yeah, I'm gonna lock in Gandalf.
Yeah, come on, it's Gandalf.
None shall pass.
You shall, Frodo, you're my young boy, Frodo. You shall come down to the Shire, and Frodo. Yes, Frodo.
Yeah.
I always any given chance to do a baddie in McKellen impersonation.
Yeah, okay.
Professor Charles Xavier.
Yeah.
Dumbledore
Dumbledore was good.
Dumbledore was in a different,
Nah.
whole different. This wasn't who's your favorite Harry Potter character.
No. Dumbledore and Gandalf were brothers.
They were?
Yeah.
Dumblegolf? Gambledore. That's my favorite character. It's not Lego Man, the arrow shooting guy. It's not Thor and Oakenshield.
Yeah.
No, it's Gollum.
It's
Gollum. Who doesn't love Gollum? You know Gollum.
I don't love Gollum.
The
Gollum's
Joe
annoying.
Gollum is like the annoying little Joe Pesci of Lord of the Rings. Who doesn't? What's the
Nah, Gollum bothers me. It's so annoying.
But you know there's going to be a 3-part Gollum series of movies just so we can stretch out the Lord of the Rings and
Jesus.
Hobbit. Oh my God.
So we've made this one chapter into 6 movies.
I know. If you think from all I hear from people that have seen the Hobbit movies, is just like if you thought they filled for time or stretched during the Lord of the Rings trilogy, where it's just sort of like, all right.
Walking, the movie.
Yeah, it's just like, and now, just dinner, the movie.
My dinner with Dumbledore. And I purposely said the wrong name there.
Oh, Dumblegolf, will you be coming over for supper? Elf songs, 19 minutes of elf songs.
If I were a Lord of the Rings character, I'd be Gamblemore.
That's awesome. I'm good with Dumblegolf.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm completely content. Because you know who Dumblegolf is? He's the guy that runs that magical little putt-putt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
John Daly's passed out drunk on the 9th hole.
It's so much fun.
All right. That was a good fantasy show, I'd say.
Totally. I think we gave everybody the kind of advice they need to be a winner next week.
Indeed. Before we go, I should note that you need to check out SB Nation starting next week. Actually, check out SB Nation every single day. But starting next week, be on the lookout for a show called Origins. We're going to have amazing, cool looks at Pierre Garçon, LaShawn McCoy, Anquan Bolden, TJ Ward, show where they came from, talk to the people that they grew up with. It's a really cool series that's going to be out.
Yeah, it's a nice little Behind the Football Player, and it premieres here November 3rd, only at sbnation.com.
And in the meantime, you got questions for me or Nick Stevens, hit us up on Twitter. I'm at Matt Ufford. He's at Ahoy Nick Stevens. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening on Blog Talk Radio, and we'll see you next week.
Happy Halloween, and remember, strangers do have the best candy.